Hello and welcome to this now fortnightly edition of Rugby League Down South. Coming up this week, Broncos new signing Jamie Soward following his try-scoring debut. Coach Tony Rea on the defeat to Salford, which leaves the Broncos bottom of Super League. Hear from the City Reds coach Rea Noble as well for his thoughts on the London Rugby League scene. And we'll talk to the Old Golds of Gloucestershire, who've just notched their first Championship 1 win. We'll also talk to the only Southern-based player in the female England student side. And we'll hear from some Sheffield Eagles fans who were at the Stoop on Saturday, but not to watch the Broncos-Salford game. More on that later on. If you want to email the programme, you can do it any time during the week. rldownsouth@gmail.com, on Twitter @Ian Ramsdale, or using the hashtag RLDS for Rugby League Down South. Let's crack on then, shall we? Jamie Soward, he's arrived. In fact, he arrived at 7:30 on Saturday morning on a flight from Australia. Named on the bench for the Salford game. There was a bit of chatter beforehand as to whether he might end up in the starting lineup. It wasn't to be. He came on after 23 minutes, and to be fair, he looked well like a leader, didn't he, out there on the field after that moment. They'd had an awful opening quarter to the game, and, well, it seemed to work, didn't it? And with Soward on the pitch, by my calculations, Broncos won the game 30-16, despite that negative scoreline eventually after that disastrous 20 minutes when Broncos' defence was just carved open, wasn't it? Dissected by the Salford City Reds attack. Well, after the game, I had a quick chat with Jamie about what he hopes to achieve in his short spell with the Broncos.
How are you feeling now?
I'm pretty tired now, but looking forward to some food and getting to know a few of the boys, apart from just meeting them, shaking their hands and playing alongside them.
What was it like out there today?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, obviously the start was pretty poor, and it's a learning experience. It's happened 2 weeks in a row. I followed it pretty closely last week in Australia, so I'll get a week to settle in now, and next week we need to get it fixed so we can play Catalans.
I think it'd be right to say you know quite a lot about this team. You've ever since the signing was announced, you've been really hungry and keen to know quite what they're doing here.
Yeah, I've been pestering Tony and Lucy, and I actually said, Tony didn't really want me to play, but truth be known, I was pestering him and said, I'm not over here to watch, so I think he sort of had to let me because he didn't want me sitting up next to him in the box telling him what to do.
And what did you make of being here today?
I loved it. Yeah, it's good. We had a good turnout crowd-wise, and they were nice and vocal once we started to get back into the game, and we showed that, they're a young side here. They just need some older heads to, keep them on the job and keep moving forward.
People might say, looking at the position that Broncos are in, why have you come here? So why have you come to Broncos?
No, I've come to win. I've come to, like I said, here to win games and try and help these young blokes. I mean, that left edge that I went on into today, I think, I was the oldest one by about 9 or 10 years. So, these kids are still learning the ins and outs of first grade, and if I can help for 3 months and gain a few lifetime friends. I've played with Dorney and Robbo and Whitty back home, so, those guys know how I play, and I'm not the most talented bloke. I just go out there and play.
It did seem as well, as soon as you got out there, you were sort of bossing people around and sort of telling them where to go. But you took a leadership role out there, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm not too bossy. I'm just a competitor, mate. I'm a sore loser, so you can ask my missus when she gets here. I don't let her win at anything. So, mate, I'm just out there trying to, win games and have a good time here. And I'm not here for a holiday. I'm here to play footy, and that was the main thing, that I wanted everyone to know. I'm here to try and win games, and we've got an important couple of games coming up before the obviously important Challenge Cup tie.
It got a bit heaty out there at one point, and you were involved as well. It does seem that all of a sudden you really feel part of this side and part of the team.
No, I just wasn't going to stand up for, I didn't know who it was. It was just picking on the young blokes, and I've been there myself, and I got hit late about 2 minutes after that, but that's whatever. That doesn't really worry me, but just a few young blokes here trying their guts out, and they just didn't deserve that kind of treatment, so tried to, I guess, earn a little bit of respect.
You've had a lot of conversations with Tony about the side. You've seen a lot of video as well. You've been in a game. What do you think Broncos need to do if they are to win? You come over to win. What do they need to do?
Mate, we need to just look at the tape from the first 20, discuss it, and then watch the next 60 and see why we scored 30 points. And the second half was 24-10. That's a team to me that his game places. It could have easily been 60-70 nil, which would have been disappointing. But I've been saying that we played some good footy, we scored some good tries, and it's nice. I'm off the nudie run already.
And Broncos have now fallen to the bottom of the table after today's defeat. Do you think they've got what they need to not finish there?
Yeah, look, they've been struck down by a huge amount of injuries, and I think it's important for people to realise that. Coming over here and meeting everyone, and they're all on crutches and broken arms and calves and stuff like that. So it's important to realise the position we're in, but the only way is up.
That was my chat from BBC London 94.9's programme, which was down at the Stoop on Saturday. A couple of comments I had on Twitter following the story being written up for the BBC Sport website. Dave saying, great interview, seems like a great bloke too. He was very accommodating, was Jamie Soward at the weekend, and lots of media attention he's had as well since he's arrived. I had a tweet from the media manager at Broncos saying there'll be plenty of stuff and stories around from him this week. I had to give him a one-page media schedule at the beginning of the week because he's going to be so busy. So I expect to see more of Jamie Soward on your screens, on the internet, and all over. Quotes from Jamie, I'm sure he'll be in the Rugby League press as well this weekend with the interviews that he's had to field this week, including that one from me. John on Twitter at Ian Ramsdale saying Jamie did more organising on the pitch and motivating than Tony Rea seems to be able to do. If we survive, Tony should go before recruitment starts. There's a few people voicing their concern about Tony Rea's coaching and his position at the moment. For me, I think it's a bit premature. He hasn't really signed too many recruits, has he himself? He was left with largely an inherited squad when he came over. I know that in our podcast from a couple of weeks ago, we discussed the issue very briefly, and someone questioned whether he has the London Rugby League thing in him. To be fair, with the the involvement that he's had with the Broncos over the years, he's definitely got that running through his veins. So I wouldn't doubt that, and I wonder whether other people feel, is your confidence still in Tony Rea? He's been there and done it before, maybe not with altogether too much success, but I wonder whether someone thinks that somebody else might do a better job. Your thoughts will be welcome. rldownsouth@gmail.com if you want to email, or on Twitter at Ian Ramsdale. Debbie saying very impressed with Soward, not just his skills but the leadership you could see from the stands. Pity it's only short term. Absolutely, Debbie, couldn't agree more. The way that he directed the side around as soon as he came on the field, just pushing and pulling people, telling them where to be. I guess for the youngsters it does help, doesn't it, knowing that you're in the right place rather than not guessing that you're in the right place, but standing where you think is the right place, and to have someone direct you around can be a big help. And I don't know whether defensively he did too much, but it did seem to tighten things up, didn't it? I mentioned that in that 44-30 defeat to Salford, in my Twitter match report I said it was comfortable for Salford, uncomfortable though for the Broncos, now bottom of Super League. Adam says he begs the question as to why Soward didn't start, brought on when the game was gone. Good to have a player coach on the pitch, though, he jokes. Could Rea have started him? Well, I think that's what Jamie wanted. And I know that I was chatting with off-air to Tony Rea at the end of the game, and he was saying, he could feel Jamie sat on the bench looking up at him in the gantry in those opening few minutes when the side were collapsing, really, sort of saying, get me on, get me on. I guess if Rea would have started him and things would have gone wrong, one, you don't have the option of changing things with that impact player, and two, maybe people would have said he shouldn't have played it from the start, he's only just arrived from Australia. Maybe it was a bit of a no-win. Darren on Twitter at Ian Ramsdale said, just goes to show what we can do when we work together as a team. And John as well saying, any news on what's happening with the Broncos? Rumours start to go soon. New investors, Barnett chairman interested in investing if we move. Nothing more to add, John, as to what's really been said. Potentially, yes, some of those, any of those, all of those could happen. The details are very sketchy at the moment, and it still remains that things are going to be worked out. I did have a chat with a few people down at the Stoop at the weekend, and the details are being closely guarded at the moment, but I'd hope that we'll find out very, very soon. Of course, we're nearing the end of the season, aren't we? So, and not too many more games to go, not too many home games as well, for things to be announced and told, and plans got in place for next season. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there was a we'll hear from Tony Rea in a second about sort of future signings for next year, but maybe there's an element of, with the club not knowing where they are, maybe it's difficult at the moment to try and sign people up. A couple of other tweets that I just had before we do hear from Tony Rea from the South West London Chargers, saying they're hosting the finals on the 20th of July at Chiswick RFC, which is a postcode W42SH. Bears Rugby League versus the Hammersmith Hills Hoists, that's at 1:30, and the Chargers against Titans Open Age at 3 o'clock. So I said I mentioned that in the podcast. And worth mentioning as well, the Broncos Primary Rugby League Festival, which was held at the Stoop before the game on Saturday. I counted at least 150 youngsters that were involved in the games before the Salford game at the Stoop. I tweeted a picture and said, "Rugby league doesn't work in London?" ? Matt said no, not in a professional sense. When they produce a competitive team with decent crowds, then talk about it working. But he added he sincerely hopes that it does. He's hoped it would be successful for a while, but on a senior level it seems to be dying lamentably. Matt, thanks for those thoughts. And let's hear now from the Broncos coach, Tony Rea, after that defeat to the Salford City Reds by 30 points to 44. This is an interview with Jamie Hill, a reporter for BBC London 94.9. And as you'll hear, it's live radio. I haven't edited this, so you can sort of get the feel of sort of what Tony was saying in the early bits, where you don't particularly hear too much of what he's saying, but I guess you can get the gist. There was a few technical problems at the start, but here is Jamie Hill of BBC London with Tony Rea.
Jamie Soward was tremendous on debut today.
Yeah, that was an exciting day. Fantastic individual performance and...
Yeah, we're still struggling there with the communications issues between Jamie Hill
and... be excited about watching this guy. There's something special, for something we need. They're better around him. You can just see them lifting and thinking and moving, and it's just it's thinking for them, working for them. He understands and accepts his responsibilities there. So very delighted for him and for the club that he's here.
Yeah, apologies, Tony. We're just trying to walk closer to make sure we're in range of the radio signal here, which is just intermittently jumping out every now and again. So apologies for that there, Tony. But obviously in the first 20 minutes of that game, the 5 tries from Salford ultimately proved decisive today.
Oh, absolutely. It's the annoying thing. It was a recurring theme from last week, where we, of course, obviously a lot of the week was to prepare to not to have that happen to you. We're out of the contest in many ways early on. We were chasing it. We weren't out of it. We were chasing it. But it was just disappointing to see that our physical efforts weren't we weren't moving well enough. We just, as our bodies were moving a yard behind what they were moving, and that's just it's a learning curve. It's not enjoyable. It's not fun to go through. It didn't have to be that way, and what we wanted to do was not have that happen. We wanted to be in that contest and moving well, but back to fixing it up.
I guess some people would say when Jamie came on, there was an instant difference to the London Broncos side this afternoon.
Yeah, that's a fair comment too. Good players do that to teams. It's what we need. We need to lift, but equally, if you can do it with Jamie out there, do it when he's not out there. If you're an individual, it's a bit of a symptom here. People want to follow too much, and you've got to stand on your own feet and deliver your own performance and have own personal pride. And something that I've got to make sure that gets inside of people, that they understand their responsibilities and do their bit.
There were some youngsters making their home debuts today, though, Harry Little and Joel Wicks, and they did not look out of place today.
Yeah, look, they did their bits, but there were some challenges in there for them that they didn't aim up on, and some things they did okay on. But I can't go easy on them and say it's lovely to get a debut. You accept the Super League shirt, you accept the challenges of playing in the Super League. So they'll be reviewed as equal with everyone else.
Of course, the defeat means you're bottom of the Super League table now with 7 games to go, just 2 of those at home. It's a big challenge now for London to avoid the wooden spoon, I guess. Yeah,
well, we've got to rise to that challenge. We've got to eyeball it. The team who played today didn't want that to happen, so they've gone out and fought hard and made sure it didn't happen. We've got to make sure that we'll get our moments. There's good form scratching around in under that surface there. There's enough good signs there. We've just got to add that toughness to them, a physical bit to them, and aim up here.
And we've spoken in the past about the Challenge Cup quarter-final coming up against Sheffield. It's now less than a fortnight away. Are you seeing enough positive signs from the squad now, Tony, that you'll go to the Don Valley with confidence?
I'm not worried about that one at the moment, to be honest. I think it might be part of the problem here, as people are looking at that one, and it's a big distraction for us, and there's a number of distractions around, but at the end of the day, we just need to play well next week. The best thing you could have done today, we learned some good lessons there today, some things we've been speaking about doing we achieved in the second half, and we just have to understand the importance and value of defending your line, making sure they don't get those easy ones on you, and you stopped 2 or 3 of them easy ones, and the contest was ours, so we won't worry too much about Sheffield till that week.
And Tony, just finally, you'll have seen around the Super League this week that a lot of the clubs are now starting to announce their signings for the new season. Salford in particular have been very, very busy this week. At what point can we expect to see London start to announce some players for next season?
Oh, we've got some thoughts, and we've been talking to some people there, but we just got, we got some decisions to make this week, and we'll, we're talking to some people, yeah.
Thanks very much, Tony, not just for the interview, but for keeping with me as we walk down the touchline here. I really do appreciate that. Thanks very much indeed.
Listening back to that interview, it was not disconcerting to hear Rea's comments there. It didn't really give too much concrete about those signings, which I guess will do not much to sort of allay the fears of a certain Broncos fans at the moment. He just say they are talking to people. They know what, they're saying that things are going on, but there's nothing really too concrete there, which did make me worry slightly. But maybe we'll see what happens with that over the next few weeks and months. And now, of course, Saturday brought Brian Noble to the Stoop. I've worked with Brian on the Championship Rugby League coverage on Premier Sports. We've often chatted about the situation, about the game in the South. He did put his hat in the ring as well, didn't he, when the Broncos coaching vacancy came up. So after the game, I thought I'd sit down with Brian and get his thoughts on, well, where he thinks from his coaching point of view at London Rugby League is, what he made of the game, of course, at the weekend as well, having guided his Salford side to a victory.
Well, Brian, how do you reflect on a game like that? You were sort of running away with it earlier on, but then things tightened up second half.
Yeah, and that's credit to London. They obviously tightened up some of the things that they were doing, and Jamie Soward came on the field and really helped them, and who's he not going to help? He's that kind of world-class player, but we just got a bit scruffy, but I can probably give them an allowance for that. We've been plenty of times when we've been thumped in the last few weeks, and to getting the winners in closure is really pleasing, and I thought at times in the game we executed really, really well, looked like a class outfit.
Were you surprised at how easy it was at the start to sort of break down Broncos' defence? Because it did seem your tactics were to get the ball wide, to sort of drag out the Broncos' defence, and it really worked for you.
It did, and it's something that we worked on in practice. We looked at where we might get some opportunities. I didn't think we'd get as many opportunities, but you have to execute those players, as you say, and we did. And to see that's the pleasing aspect of what we did. We stuck to what we practiced to do, and it proved dividends for us.
And what did you make of Jamie Soward? You said it obviously tightened up a bit when he came on. I mean, he's quite raw today in terms of he's only just arrived off a plane, but he did seem to make a lot of difference for Broncos.
He's a world-class halfback. You can put him in a team of nuggets and he'll make them play. I've seen him for years, and he's a great fella as well. That's what London are getting. I know that too. And so whilst the stint might be short, I think he expects big things of himself and big things for London, and there's no doubt he gave them a lift, an emotional lift as well. So an astute and a very good signing. I thought we affected ourselves as much as he affected us. I thought we went away from some of the things that we were doing and didn't quite execute the way we did in the first half, and got scruffy and handed over the ball for free and gave some penalties away. Well, they're recipes in rugby league to invite a team and Jamie Soward into your half. You're going to be troubled, and it proved that way. But we stuck a 6-inch nail in the ground halfway through and got back to the other end of the field and posted a couple of scores ourselves, and so that was the pleasing aspect of them staying in the game and trying to stay tough.
We've had conversations about sort of, what you think about Broncos in the season and how things have gone. From your coaching point of view now, I mean, what is it that Broncos need to do? Is it just that defence? I mean, do they have what they need going forward? I mean, what will make them better from your coaching point of view?
Well, I can think of 9 or 10 players that's on their roster that's not playing at the moment that'll help. But, they use 8 kids of their own today, which has to be an absolutely fabulous fillip for the club to have your own people coming in and playing at this level. Maybe not as many as 8 and 9 at a time, but you have to say, and when I saw the thousands, the hundreds of kids running around on the field before, and I was absolutely thrilled with, and all from London. They all had a great accent and the right kind of accent, and that kind of DNA can only improve the club going forward. But I can certainly think of a few players that aren't playing that would help London's plight at the moment. Let's not forget that when they've had all those players on deck, they've competed with everybody. So we can all get carried away about what's out there and what isn't out there, but I reckon that half the salary cap sat in the stand doesn't help.
You mentioned those youngsters. I mean, do you think that Broncos are producing youngsters that are good enough for Super League at the moment? I mean, again, their experience compared to youngsters coming through other academies is sort of insignificant, really. But, I mean, do you think they're going the right way with things?
Well, I just mentioned Dixon, who wouldn't want Dixon in their team, and Sargentson, who wouldn't want Sargentson in their team, and the clubs that have come through previously, and the McCarthy Scarsbrook side. So somebody's doing something right. So I'd say that, yeah, of course they're good enough. You only find out about players when you put them in. And I think it's difficult to put a lot in at once. I think that's tough for any group, any team. But there's certainly that individual talent. They'll make that decision. If they're given an opportunity, which they have been on a number of occasions, they will show enough prowess or enough skill or enough talent or enough attitude, if it's attitude, to get themselves in that team and stay there. That's the key, staying there.
And, I mean, people have, will look at a result like today and see Broncos now bottom of the table with yourselves above them and losing again. And the question marks will always come up about, should people persist with London? I mean, from what you see, is it working? Is it something that should be persisted with this all new format that might be coming in terms of sort of Super League 1, Super League 2 or any division? Are sort of Broncos you see as important and crucial as part of that?
Well, I saw the tons of kids playing. There's parts of our rugby league heartland, if that's the right expression, that hasn't got. I would take Salford as an example. We're on a rebuild ourselves, and we need to introduce the game to Manchester, which is on our doorstep. So we'll need the same allowances and the same facility, and all the hard work that goes in here at London is absolutely proving dividends. I think, what was it, 30,000 kids playing in London area? Wow, how many rugby league heartland areas can boast that kind of numbers? So yeah, I think it's working. I think what would be really helpful, I think, is to find a home. If it's not the Stoop here, the Harlequins, if it's not going to be here, then find somewhere where you can build a fan base, where all those kids that came to play here can come and watch their team every week. So I think that's one of the challenges, and I'm sure they're on with it. But I think, why would you pull the pin now? It's silly.
And I guess as well, with the future development of Broncos as well, and sort of the direction that they're heading, you talk about the youngsters coming through, and I guess it's something that just needs to be persisted with.
Yeah, and there needs to be an element, I know this sounds silly, an element of success on the field. David Hughes invested massively in this team, out of his own pocket for a number of years, and I have nothing but admiration for people like that. Absolutely thrilled that a rugby league fan can do that for a club. So it's definitely got legs. They just need that bounce at the ball and that element of clinical finish that gets them somewhere and gets them a little bit more profile.
And not to blow my own trumpet as well, Brian, but I wrote in the Matchday programme today about the potential that Salford and London have. You mentioned that Salford being based in Manchester, that big catchment is something that really hasn't been capitalised on it, but the potential for both of these two clubs today, the two big cities, it's the big city derby, isn't it, of rugby league today, and their potential is huge.
I think Manchester's the third biggest city in the country, and we've gone from, I think originally about 11 or 12 teams in Manchester down to 3. So we've got to do some work, and the rugby league should be driving all their vans that they've driven to London over the years that are now self-sustaining. Drive all your vans into Manchester, get it into the schools, and get people playing in that city, because it's not just a football city, it's a rugby league city.
Interesting words from Rea Noble, and I think there's many coaches as well that see the game the same way as him, and comforting to know in a way that that's how he sees. And he was impressed, wasn't he, with the Primary Rugby League Festival, which happened before the game. And I think sometimes it's things like that people don't see, that people don't appreciate. And as he mentioned, that's what they need to do in Salford. The potential is there. And in fact, I wrote about that in the programme at the weekend, as I mentioned to Brian there. I'll post that blog online, so you'll be able to see it on my Tumblr page. But the potential for both clubs is massive, and you'd really hope that they can make the most of it over the next few years. In terms of duration and how long they may be given, particularly for Broncos, there was a story around that the independent writer Dave Hadfield did with the FA chairman, not the FA chairman, I keep calling him the FA chairman, the former FA chairman, isn't he? But the RFL chairman, now Brian Barwick. He was the guest speaker at this week's All-Party Parliamentary Rugby League Group. Their meeting this week, he was their guest speaker. He did praise rugby league in the South, so says my mole. He talked about the Sky figures as well. 24% of the viewers for rugby league are in the South, of England. I'm not sure whether that was London specific or just in what they consider the south. Probably out the heartlands is more what they're getting at. He does say, though, that London will be given time to see what they can do. Says it may not happen in the next sort of 5 to 10 years, so it sounds like they're going to be given a few more years as well to see what they can do. He's not going to give up on London, I think is the word that came out of that all-party parliamentary rugby league group meeting from this week. I wasn't there. I know somebody who was there. Well, maybe I have to get more details. I've been trying to talk to Greg Mulholland MP, the chair of the group, over the last few weeks. I haven't managed to get hold of him yet, so maybe I shall get hold of him for the next podcast, which is in 2 weeks' time now. Of course, I've, because of other work, had to scale down the podcast, just doing it every 2 weeks now, so you get 2 episodes a month of Rugby League Down South. Now then to the All Golds of Gloucestershire. They got their first championship won at the weekend over Oxford, a 20 points to 18 victory. They've been working hard for it all year, not just on the field though, plenty going on off the field too. I've had a chat with head coach Brad Hepi about the week that the weekend, the game, the day that they got their first win in Championship 1.
It was absolutely wrapped, Ian. Not just for myself, but mostly for the boys, because over the last few weeks, the last month, have been threatening to put in this sort of display. And the last 3 games, you look at half time, we've been leading, we've been drawing, and yet we haven't been able to put that final nail in the coffin in the second half. And for the guys to do that away at Oxford, who are sitting fourth in the table and a pretty good, decent team, for the guys to do that, as they've been threatening to do for a while, was unbelievable. They've taken out of that win on the weekend, to believe some confidence in themselves that they've got the ability, that they perform for 80 minutes, that they can win the game.
Oh, I can hear the excitement in your voice. What was the difference this week? Why did the victory come this week and maybe you haven't had it other weeks?
I think the guys took out of their first half performance. We trained to a specific game plan all week. The guys were on top of training all week. That transpired into the game on Sunday. We had a good preparation. We had a good talk before the game. We had a really good warm up. The guys played the first half, as well as they could. And when you sit back and analyse the game here, their Oxford's tries came off, a couple of 4 back-to-back penalties, gifted in field position, and they scored. They scored another one off a kick on the 5th tackle, which was a really good piece of play by their winger to score under immense pressure and just get it in before he hit the corner flag. So, if you take those 2 out of it, we were in front territorially for a good percentage of the first half, and then to go into that second half and then go behind, but then come back with confidence and the game management, which has been missing over the last few weeks, was really testament to the guys' preparation.
How is this year going for you? Because it was quite an experimental year, I guess, with it being the first one and finding your feet and I guess not really knowing what to expect. So has it been, has it met your expectations? Has it surpassed your expectations? Is it just about what you thought?
I think it's fallen a bit short of what I myself, Lionel, the chairman, and Rob were expecting in terms of, upon reflection, we had a really successful Bucks championship winning season, and as I alluded to in an earlier conversation, we probably put too much expectation on the student guys to raise and be able to lift themselves to that level of performance in the championship 1, and so I think we performed under our expectations, but over the last put that aside and look at the last 4 weeks, now we're starting to perform to where we need to be. We've brought in probably 4 or 5 guys outside of the student setup, and that's really helped things in terms of giving the student guys a little bit more confidence in terms of their experience that they're showing them the way forward.
You talk about the fact that it's given them, the knowledge and that know-how that they know they can win the games now. They know what it feels like. People talk about rugby league being a momentum sport, and the fact that the habit of winning can often be ingrained inside. Now you've got that. Do you think it will help you in the rest of the season now?
Oh, definitely. We sat down after the last game, prior to the Oxford game, and 7 games to go, and we're going to address each one individually. And Oxford was the first one that we sat and we talked about, and the guys were suggesting that it was a winnable game, and they realised that upon analysis of their own performance, that they've underperformed, and to go out there on Sunday and produce that sort of performance is only encouraging for the rest of the season. Again, we've got South Wales this week, which we'll address on its own merits, and definitely the whole winning scenario changes the whole atmosphere within the club in terms of confidence and self-belief.
Is South Wales your derby, so to speak? I know that their derby technically is North Wales, isn't it? But who's your derby?
Our derby is both South Wales and Oxford. They're the closest teams. It's probably an hour and 20 to South Wales and an hour to Oxford. So, yeah, they're both our local derbies.
And talking of South Wales, I think I'm right in saying that the partnership that they got with Wigan, Andy Powell has been mentioned and named in the squad to potentially face you, hasn't he?
Yes, I've heard that. I heard that today, and I think that'll be great if he's in that squad to face us today. He'll definitely be a spot player in terms of what I view as a weakness for us to exploit. His understanding and knowledge of the game, and the big thing, when I was playing in, when Inga Tuagamala, the great All Black winger, first came across, and Scott Canal first came across, they both struggled in terms of their fitness and the coming the up and back to 10 metres. And as Andy Powell's playing, he's definitely a spot player that will be pinpointing and catching him out in that up and back to 10 metre rule.
And I had a quick chat with Rob Webber from the club earlier on today, and he was telling me about the community work and all the work that's going on sort of away from your squad in particular, to build the sport. It sounds like, there's some really exciting things around the corner, and the sport's doing really well in this debut year.
Yes, it is. It's continuing to grow, and we've got two really good young teams in our under-18s who are actually playing in an under-19 and an under-20 league, and they're competing really well. And we've also got the under-16s who played the full Welsh under-16 squad on Saturday and only lost by 8 points. And these are the guys that are our future in this area. And that's our sustainable future, and that's what we're trying to do. Build a club from a sustainable base like that. And we've got a good club up and running at Old Pats at under 14s, and again under 14s at Cripps, at Old Cripps. So we're putting in the foundations that are only going to prove fruitful in the future.
So that's the All Golds head coach Brad Hepi, and the All Golds were awarded the Premier Sports Team of the Week as well this week for their performance and their victory over Oxford, and also their second row, Richard Jones, got try of the week as well. So congratulations to them. It's been a great week for them, and we talk about things that are going on off the field as well, talking with Rob Webber, who I believe is the chief executive at the All Golds. He was telling me about a particular thing that he's just been arranging for next year over in the area. I can't really say too much more than that. It's great, and some really good news that's going to happen. Really interesting news. It'll put the cat amongst the pigeons, I think is the way of phrasing it. So some interesting stuff to come from the University of Gloucestershire All Golds over the next week or two. Now let's hear from the only female representative from the south in the Student England setup. It was, they obviously have various games throughout the year, and at the student level only have that single representative. That single representative is Charlotte Hamlyn-Williams, who is from London, and that's where she plays her rugby. Currently, though, she has to play for Saracens, where she trains and plays. So she's playing rugby union and switching to rugby league to play the student game. She just hasn't managed to find the right level of team, really, I think is the best way of saying it, in London in which to play. But I'll let her explain more about the story and how she feels and how she got into being that sole Southern representative in the England women's student side.
Well, it started when I was at Exeter a couple of years ago. There are some really good advocates for rugby league in the southwest down there, and they came along to university training sessions, just kind of give us a taste of what rugby league is, see if anyone was interested. And after those few training sessions, I just loved it. It was kind of everything that I liked about rugby union, and without all the stuff I don't like.
And you're the only representative at the moment in that student women's side from the south. All the others are drawn from the north. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And so, do you play for a team in the south?
No, I don't. I play for a rugby union side in the south, but there isn't a team in the south or near me that I feel that if I played for, I'd kind of benefit from playing there and that I'd learn from.
I guess you say you play for Saracens. I guess the calibre of what's on offer there is better than at the moment the current state of rugby league side for women in the south.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at Saracens, I get the opportunity to play alongside girls that play for England and play for their country. So I learn a lot from that. And with rugby league in the south at the minute, there isn't that opportunity to play with girls of the same calibre.
But you prefer league? Yeah,
I do. I don't tell that to everyone, but...
So how often do you play with the England student side?
Over the summer, we train a couple of Saturdays, and then starting after the World Cup, we'll be training pretty much every Saturday, September, October, in the run-up to our last two fixtures.
And when's your next game, or what's the next thing you're gearing up towards?
So the kind of main aim of the England Students Programme is the competition against the combined services, which is for the Pankhurst Cup. And for the last 2 years when I've played, we're getting closer every year, but we haven't beaten them yet. And this is quite a few of the girls' last opportunities to beat them. So that's what we're really focusing on this year, is to finally get our hands on that cup.
What sort of form you in? Because I think you went over to France, didn't you, to play a women's side there?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we went to France in May, at the end of May, to play against what we were told would be a regional side, Aquitaine, and when we actually turned out to be essentially the French Women's World Cup squad, who are representing France in the World Cup next week. And given that it was our second game, we weren't expecting to come away with a victory, but we actually ended up winning 28-18. And it was just an amazing team performance. Everyone really pulled together and we played really, really well. And the result last year really didn't go our way, so it was great to get the victory, especially against girls who represent their country at a full international level. And
it's probably a silly question, but in order to qualify to be in the student women's side, did you have to be in sort of higher education for the full-time education?
There's kind of a mixture of us. There's some girls who are still in college, so I guess that's further education, higher education. And then there's some of us girls who are at university. There's a big age range. There's some girls who are 16, and then there's those of us who are doing further degrees who are a bit older.
How does it feel to be the only Southern representation in that side as well? Because, I mean, do the other girls get to train more together, without you? Yeah, well, they all play for club sides, and the majority of them will play for the same side or will play against each other week in, week out, whereas I don't get that opportunity to. But when I do get to train with them, it's great, and I feel really lucky to be able to play alongside these girls who are all of a great standard. I mean, I learn a lot when I play with them. What do you think of the current state of the female rugby league side of things within London? Because there are a few teams, there's increasingly more. I mean, is it heading in the right direction? I think it is, with there's getting more and more teams, but I think it's not very well known that there are teams around, and they don't have the kind of depth in players that Women's Rugby Union has. And it's a shame in London, because actually in Women's Rugby Union, kind of the hub
of Premiership teams are based in London. So there is a massive pool of talent to pick from. But a lot of people don't know about rugby league, or they have preconceived ideas about it. But I always say, if you haven't played it, you don't know how good it is. And but very few people listen.
I know that you train with Saracens and you play with Saracens as well. The experience that you get there is great. Do you think there's potential for Broncos, Scholars, Hemel to set up a women's side, and for that to be a higher level than maybe some of those conference sides that have female equivalents as well?
Well, it would be great if they did. It would be a brilliant opportunity for lots more girls to get involved in rugby league. And it's certainly something that I always try and impress on anyone that I know that I meet that works in rugby league, that they should have more women's sides. So, who knows?
Because I guess that's the key, isn't it? You saying that you train and play with Saracens, it's that experience that you get, and if there's a link to a professional or semi-professional side, the experience that you would get there as a player would obviously be better than elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. If you linked with a club, because at Saracens we're building links with the men's club, so you get a lot more opportunity there. And if there were rugby league sides that were linked to places like Broncos or Hemel, then we'd get better facilities, we'd have more opportunity to access better coaching and that kind of thing, and I really think that would develop the game.
So that's Charlotte Hamlyn-Williams from London, the only female representative in the England student side. Congratulations to her. They've obviously got a few big games coming up, and fingers crossed she can still be involved in the setup and can continue to represent the South in those games as well. And now finally we'll hear from a few Sheffield Eagles fans here on Rugby League Down South. They were at the Stoop on Saturday, not to watch Broncos against Salford, but to watch the under-19s game that followed. Broncos hosted Sheffield Eagles in a game which the Broncos under-19s won 34 points to 18, and considering that the cream, I guess, of their under-19 squad were in the first grade game as well, weren't they? A promising victory over Sheffield, who, although are bottom of that under-19s table. But a decent win for them, and we spotted these fans who were cheering on Salford, and Jamie Hill, our reporter for BBC London 94.9, went over to chat to them because not just were they watching that game, but I'm sure they had particular thoughts about a certain Challenge Cup fixture which is coming along in the next few weeks. So Jamie went along to find out how they're feeling at the moment.
Well, that date a fortnight from now is very much in everybody's mind, and especially so for Mark, Jamie, James and Ethan, who are Sheffield Eagles fans who have come down specifically to watch the Sheffield Eagles under-19s side this afternoon taking on the London Broncos counterparts. Mark, if I can turn to you first, that is devotion.
Yes, it's what we do. We're passionate about the sport. I mean, Sheffield's not a big rugby league city, but the fans that we do have are very passionate about the sport we believe in, and it's a great day out in a great city, and it's all for the support of the young team.
Was it a chance to run the rule over the senior London side as well this afternoon?
Yeah, we had a quick look, and I don't think we've anything to be afraid of. It's everything to gain and nothing to lose. It's one of those games where we've just got to go for it. I mean, London are having the problems, well publicised. Sheffield are on a massive rise the last couple of years. It's one of those games where we've got everything to gain out of it, so it's going to be a great game.
And Jamie, if I can turn to you, 14 consecutive wins now, semi-finals of the Northern Rail Cup as well, quarter-finals of the Challenge Cup, top of the Championship. Apart from that, it's not going well for Sheffield this year.
Well, we're actually in the final of the Northern Rail now against Lee in a couple of weeks, and let's be honest, we're going to be up favourites for that. But listen, everyone written us off a couple of years ago. Last season we come back, won the division, won the playoffs. Back again this year, we should finish top. Everyone's saying Featherstone and Halifax, no chance. And then next season is hopefully that it's going to be the last season that there's no promotion to Super League. And then after that, when licences are hopefully finished in 2015, we're going to be up there into Super League, where, let's be honest, ever since we got, what should we say, dissolved by Huddersfield, it's where we belong, and I think we're back in 2 years, back in Super League, and that's what we want to see.
James, it's been a long road for the Sheffield Eagles, hasn't it? As Jamie was saying there,
Yes.
there was the merger. I guess you'd probably put that in inverted commas with the Huddersfield Giants. You've had to reform the new identity of the club. You've had to work your way up from the bottom. You've got to find a new ground as well now, of course, with the Don Valley Stadium being closed down. This is a remarkable journey you're going on at the moment.
It is. In fact, it's one of the best journeys ever because we've come from nowhere. We've reformed. A few years ago, we were grateful to play a game. Now we're actually winning games. We're top of the league, and we're on the way to winning trophies. We're just lucky to be absolutely having the best team in the world. I think the rugby league, we are Sheffield Eagles through and through, and we are loving it. And all together now, lads, Eagles! Eagles!
Goodness me, enthusiasm there from James. But Mark, I mean, it's a fantastic journey, isn't it? And you've got that chance in a fortnight's time against the London Broncos on a massive stage to make a real statement about why you feel the Sheffield Eagles should be back at the very top table of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the kind of game that we relish at this level. I mean, we've not had many chances. I mean, the last couple of years we played Wigan and Saints in the Challenge Cup. We got a bit of a hiding, but it was a great game. This time it's a game that we think that we're on a level playing field and we can give them a game. Mark Aston says we've got every chance, and Mark's the best judge of a player and the best judge of a team I've ever known. He's an absolute legend at the club. He's guided us to where we are. We believe in him. He says we can do it. I believe him. So bring it on.
And for you guys to come down, especially to watch the under-19s today, that's incredible because you've had to rearrange the train journey, I understand, as well, because it was originally scheduled for a 12:30 kickoff. How many games do you get to go to every season?
We generally cover all the home first team games. I do personally most of the aways. I've missed a few this year. We get to as many as we can. Reserves, we generally play at Don Valley on a Saturday. We can do those. Aways, we struggle a little bit, but obviously it's a bit of a special trip today down to London. We've made this journey specially, but I mean, like you say, it's been a bit of a rearrangement, but we've made the effort, and let's hope it's a good second half. I mean, we're down by 6. It's been a very competitive game. Let's see how it goes.
And young Ethan here, will you be there at the Don Valley in 2 weeks' time?
I hope so.
I hope so. You're just hoping to be there for what could be a part of history.
Well, yeah, if we win, it'll be good, but if we lose, at least we got to the final, so good anyway.
Fantastic stuff. Well, I think you epitomise what it means to be a rugby league fan here, travelling all this way down to watch this afternoon. So have a great rest of the afternoon, and we'll see you in a fortnight.
Thank you. Thank you.
So there's some Sheffield Eagles fans confident, aren't they? A victory over the London Broncos in that Challenge Cup fixture week on Friday. And just a few comments on the under-19 squad. I mentioned that 34 points to 18 win over the Sheffield Eagles under-19s. Phil Jones, the player performance manager at Broncos, replied to my tweet saying, "Well done to James Massara, their coach, and the coaching staff for all the players that they've also dealt with a significant injury list." And he added that he's not sure in the past that London would have coped with so many missing. If you think about the people that have been injured, the people in the first grade game as well, Phil hashtagged more strength in depth, which to be fair is something that you can't really attribute to Broncos or to London Rugby League over the last few years. Strength in depth, maybe we see it at under-19 level. Maybe it's something which will flood through to the first grade side over the next few years. And just worth pointing out as well that if you look on the Sheffield Eagles website, a particular poster advertising their game at the Don Valley, saying hashtag bring on the Broncos. They're looking forward to it. Andy replied to me on Twitter posting that bring on the Broncos poster saying not a chance. Sheffield Eagles, more like shoot down the Eagles, back the Broncos, Rugby League Challenge Cup. Be interesting to see what happens, won't it? Something we'll reflect on the next Rugby League Down South podcast, which is here in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening today. Hopefully you can download the backlog if you haven't heard from the podcast in particular. The last episode is a good one to listen to. Great fans discussion. And the sort of backlog of programs are also on YouTube if you want to access them there, but you can download these audio versions in Spreaker and on iTunes. Thanks once again for listening. Rugby League Down South back in 2 weeks.